Folks, welcome back to another episode of the Friday Flows. Cameron here from Tines. Thanks for joining us once again. Today we're joined on the episode by Michael Tolan, who is probably holding the high score at this point in time for guest appearances on Friday Flows. Michael, what's the story?
Doing well, Cam. I'm not sure. I'd say possibly up here. Yeah, hopefully your audience isn't getting too sick of me at this stage. But yeah, no, happy to be on.
Not to tell, not to tell. But guys, what we want to cover today, this is a really interesting episode because as much as you've seen Michael and Connor Dunn are part of the R&D team here at Tynes, and one of their initial projects as part of that team was creating something called the SOC Automation Matrix. Now, I want to just lay a little bit of a foundation for this. I've been in with Tynes for nearly 3 years. The amount of conversations that I've had with, let's say, analysts and engineers that are at a kind of an early stage of maturity in terms of what they're doing, especially security wise, and maybe haven't really got too many feet on the ladder in regards to automation. The question is never a case of like, hey, is automation important? Everybody knows automation is important and everybody could use more time. But the question really is like, okay, where should I apply my focus in terms of automation? What use cases are going to be relevant to me right now based on the tools and based on our requirements. And ultimately, it's kind of bridging that gap between where you are and getting to a place where automation is the right automation is implemented. The stock automation matrix that the guys built was something that was going to allow you to bridge that gap even easier. So that's something that you would have seen in the Hacker News back in June. You would have seen the stock automation matrix featured there and explained out as a framework for basically, if we categorize across the SOC the different types of use cases, and then even digging in even deeper into the specific workflows within each of those categories, and then having workflow templates, having explanations, techniques explained to you, it just means that the implementation and building it out is going to be a much easier thing to do. So that's what the matrix is. But what Michael has done is taken Workbench, Tines Workbench, which is obviously our AI powered chat interface to interact with your workflows, interact with your tools in a secure and private way, and then using that to talk to the SOC matrix and potentially fill some gaps. So this is again another evolution in not only showing you what you could automate, but showing you what you might need to automate personally based on requirements. So, Michael, with that in mind, man, yeah, looking forward to checking this out.
Sure.
Show us what we're at.
Cheers, Cam. So yeah, looking through here, this is the SOC Automation Capability Matrix. Um, as it's like fully described, all of your kind of ideal SOC categories, alert handling, issue tracking, enrichment, everything which like a typical SOC might want to automate. This gives you kind of a very high level overview of the different categories in there. Maybe if I want to look to see, okay, how can I automate endpoint alerts? Now, for every category, we have this kind of like description, a few techniques, and then always links to stories in the story library where you can like go import, have these up and running within seconds, continuously updated as we get more stories in or feel like something needs to be tweaked. But yeah, this has been an invaluable resource to I think prospects and then current customers who maybe want to expand a bit more. Yeah, the possibilities are kind of endless there. Um, so obviously, this is like a great resource for me to go in kind of like by hand to kind of see, okay, where do I want to start with? Potentially, I might already be up and running within Tines, and I want to see where can I go further. Using Workbench, which we know has a connection to all of our proprietary data, if we'd like give it access to it. What we want to do in this kind of demo is to do a comparison between the matrix and what if we already got in our Tines tenant to kind of see where are we hitting, where are we lacking, where can we improve. So I'm just going to start off here in a new chat to say, hey, I'm wanting to do a review of my SOC automation coverage using the stories in my tenant. And so what it's going to do here is going to start off looking at all of the stories in my tenant. For the moment, I just have it looking as a folder just to kind of give a a few examples of like, hey, these are kind of like typical stories which you might find in your tenant um, here. And we can see even without me like giving the ACM uh, as like an extra prompt, we can kind of see that the workbench is already categorizing these into a few different areas, which can be a great like piece of knowledge here. But if I want to leverage the ACM, and what I can do here, I'll just actually, instead of getting the link, I can just copy and paste all of this into Workbench. So this is just a JSON output of the capability matrix, just so that Workbench has something to read. I'll say, okay, can you compare this list to this matrix? And what I will actually do is zoom in a bit just to help our audience a bit. Um, Cool. So we can see that we're looking at the SOC Automation Capability Matrix. So for alert handling, it can see that like it's pulling out these are the specific stories in my tenant that it finds like goes under alert handling. Issue tracking, it's only seeing one. Enrichment, it's seeing a few others. So it's already doing that like correlation between what's in the ACM and what's in my tenant. Now, kind of burying the lead almost here, I've just given it the ACM, which is just basically any other text in regards to Workbench. I could put in any like security article, white paper, or something like that and say like, hey, I've seen this new article on Hacker News, or like say here's a PDF of like these security alerts. Can you take a look at my tenant and see do I have stories which like could cover this? Or like what can you suggest here? So in this particular use case, we're just looking at the automation capability matrix, but hopefully this can be a spark to see, oh, I can just throw any text or like document which I might want to compare my tenant to. So going down here, we can see a very thorough result here. Usually execs, any like higher level person, or even just out of personal interest, I might want to like visualize this in some way. So, um, can, can we, uh, English here, can we create a quick chart, showing the different stories across the different categories. Uh, let's get the spelling right. Whoops. And so what this is going to do here is it's going to call out to this story here, display data using quick chart. So for anyone who hasn't seen any of our like Workbench demos before, you can use Workbench to query both templates and then also stories within your tenant here. Um, so this, unfortunately, because the way the displays, there we go. It can be a little bit mad at first, but we can see here this chart showing you like very quickly, okay, enrichment, we're doing good. Alert handling, response, also doing good. Issue tracking, user interaction, continuity, procedural. Without looking at the rest of the chat, I can very clearly see, okay, this is where I'm excelling. This is where I might want to improve on. So this is showing another benefit of Workbench here. Again, more information to help you make an informed decision on where you want to build next. So because the workbench is user scoped, we might want to export this data so that other people in our team or organization can both refer to this at a later point so that like they have something to start building on. So to do this, I will say, can we consolidate all of this information into a Tines case? Use the above image too. Grand. And so what this will do is it will look through the entire chat conversation, pull out all of the highlights and the things which we think will be relevant for uh, an analyst looking at this at a later date, get all of the information together and then create a Tines case for us. So That'll take a second or two just while it thinks for a bit. Also, just to kind of like zoom out and just to show that even without creating a case, there is a massive amount of data here which can be used even without creating a case. I feel like if you were to do this by hand, like this would be very kind of like tedious to do. So I think it's a great example of using Workbench for something which you mightn't want to build a story for, but to have this kind of like back and forth. If I wanted to, I would say, okay, maybe I want to focus on cloud alerts. Can we dig a bit deeper in there? That's something that you can't ask in automation workflow, but you can ask Workbench to, hey, can you give us this extra analysis? And to have that like back and forth immediately be extremely invaluable to any analyst working in Tines.
Couldn't agree
Right.
more.
Yeah. Then here, we'll just take a quick look at the case. If it'll pause, it's very eager to give me extra info. We can see here, SOC Automation Coverage Review and Improvement Plan. Here's the image that we created. Category breakdown, strengths, areas of improvements, detailed analysis and recommendation. Like this goes on and on. Again, I could have like say, hey, can we maybe do this in a markdown table? Can we like put in extra links? All of this is just me being very like upfront and kind of like casual that like, hey, can we throw this in a case? But like this is kind of a spark to see what more can we do within Tines and Workbench. So yeah, that's kind of like a quick-ish demo end to end there, just kind of showing the capability of Workbench and the automation capability matrix to help you develop your, I guess, story or journey within Tines to be more successful.
Absolutely. Yeah, listen, it's another fantastic example of just like key thing is being able to access proprietary data. You know what I mean? Like you can use Workbench to get into your stories, your workflows, your tools, and obviously interact on that level as opposed to just the general LLM that I'm asking a question to that could produce any bloody result that's not particularly specific. So again, folks, this is an evolution within SOC Automation Matrix and using it again, having a plan is one thing, but knowing exactly where to start and the most efficient way of getting there is another. And this is something that bridges that. So, folks, if you enjoyed the episode, like and repost. If you want to see anything specific covered in terms of use case or tech, pop it in the comments below. And Michael, thanks a million for joining us on today's episode. We'll catch you guys on the next one. All right, folks.